Greetings and welcome to the People's Movement Show. Of course, it is always a delight and a pleasure of mine, also a moment in which I understand there is great responsibility on my part and the part of those who share with us this platform. We are Guyanese with a significant interest, a vested interest in how things are done and how our society, our nation is managed. Here at the People's Movement, we believe with all of our hearts that we ought to hold elected officials and those who are selected by them accountable. We believe that every Guyanese should be informed and involved in the affairs of their country, as is determined in articles of law. We are called the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. And because we are a republic, it speaks to the country being governed by people through representation. We must always bear that in mind, that Guyana should be, all this often not, governed by us the people through representation. We're not governed by representatives, we govern through representation. We are people who are elected, and unfortunately for us, in my view, and in the view of many of those in the People's Movement, and even outside it, beyond this movement, it is unhealthy for us, in our view, to have a society where people can just be handpicked to stand in the House of Assembly, and which is what we call selected to be there, and they've never been elected by anyone. And they deem themselves to be in charge of the country instead of responsible to us, the people herein. And this is a time in Guyana's history and in its existence where we must be able to, and we must be willing to, speak to matters that point us all in the direction of good governance. The People's Movement focuses on independent thinking. We are always encouraged and are always encouraging others to think independently. While you bear that in mind, would you be kind enough to inform me as to whether you can see and you can also hear clearly? And thereafter, if you can, please share the broadcast with others so that they would know that we are here. I'm joined tonight by two retired assistant commissioners, Mr. Clinton Conway, or Clifton, I'll get the name in a minute. I always know him as Mr. Conway, and Mr. Slowe. Listen, this is going to be, in my view, very, very informative. There would be discussions here tonight that, as is in keeping with the ethos of the People's Movement, we believe that we should be informed and not misinformed or ill-informed. We believe in the accuracy of information, and we also believe that those who have the information that is relevant or pertinent to what a matter pertains, they should be asked to share with us on this platform these bits of information that will help us all. And these two gentlemen are certainly very well equipped to share with us in matters relating to, as we will discuss this evening, gun licensing. We speak to matters relating to security, as they called, companies that have arisen over the past few years that have got what I consider to be, and many considered even Robeson Ben, sitting in the chair of the Minister of Home Affairs, considered to be high-powered assault rifles. And they are walking around, driving around, standing at the mall in these places with these rifles, these weapons in hand. And I am here as a representative of the People's Movement, as one who serves as a leader of the movement. I'm here to engage these two gentlemen who would be able to speak to us according to laws and propriety. We need information. We must be guided. We must know as Guyanese what is proper and what is unacceptable. I will also speak to them about the the spike, the drastic increase in these accidents that we're having on our roads, and what I call killer machines in these sand trucks. These things are extremely dangerous, and they're driven by many young men who I know are absolutely unqualified to drive vehicles of any sort, much more these massive trucks laden with sand. Some of them carry 30 tons of sand, but they do not weigh 30 tons. The truck itself may weigh 20 tons or 15 tons, carrying 30 tons, racing down our roads, which are already improper, by the way. So we'll talk about these things this evening. With that said, I welcome to the People's Movement, for the first time, Mr. Conway, retired Assistant Commissioner, but for the second time, Mr. Paul Slowe, another Assistant Commissioner of Police, retired. Welcome, and you may unmute your microphones. I can do so for you. Thank you so much for being here with me this evening and for sharing this platform with all of us. Someone is complimenting me on my suit. Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I, on behalf of the People's Movement, must begin by thanking you, Mr. Clinton Conway. I just spoke to my father, Errol London. He said you're his countryman. So it has to be that you're from the beast. That he said it. He's eager to view the broadcast because you're his countryman. So welcome to you, Mr. Conway. Welcome to you, Mr. Slowe. Let me just say, I don't want to say congratulations to you in reference to the matter that was just ruled upon in the court, because to congratulate you to some extent in my fix an end to a matter. But I believe that your responsibility to us as Guyanese continues beyond just that one ruling, since you continue, as you see in the background, speaking out and exposing corruption and incompetence. You continue to do so. You continue to do so with such consistency, both you and Mr. Conway, that I cannot take the risk of congratulating you when I know that your responsibility continues. So, Mrs. Slowe, because you've been here before, you can go ahead and greet the guests, the viewers, as a matter of fact, and let's enjoy this broadcast.
Good evening, Pastor London. Good evening to all your viewers, listeners, wherever they are, whether it's evening, whether it's night, whether it's morning, wherever they are. It's good to be here with you once again to participate in this program, and I thank you for the invite.
Thank you. Mr. Conway?
Good evening to you, Pastor London. And I want to make it clear that my name is Clinton Conway. I don't want to be associated with a Clifton. So please let's get it straight. And I'm a proud West Barbician. I know that you're doing the work of the Lord, and I'm honored that you have asked me to assist you in doing the work of the Lord.
Thank you, sir. I'm grateful. Thank you very much. And from how you just spoke, you make me want to preach, but I wouldn't wear that hat tonight. Because there's quite a lot happening. But let me begin with the recent matter in reference to the court. I was very much attuned to it. I paid very careful attention because I know that it has a very significant place in our society and how our country is governed. And before we go there, if you viewers, you can see behind Mr. Slowe, there is his backdrop, speaking out, exposing corruption and incompetence. He's normally live. I think it's Wednesday at about 11 o'clock or so. With the times have changed? Can you just brief us as to when you're live?
Yes, it's on Wednesdays. Every Wednesday at 11 o'clock. Following the ruling of the judge, Justice Gino Prasad, that you referenced a while ago, we had a special program Friday afternoon. But the regular scheduled time for speaking out, exposing corruption and incompetence, which is co-hosted by my colleague there, Clinton Conway. I will never make the mistake of calling him Clifton or associating him with any Clifton. He and I are on the program every Wednesday to bring you updated and to provide information and to teach, because we understand that many people have indicated to us how much they learn from listening to us. So that is one of our aims, to make sure that the information is passed on to people, not only policemen, because many of the things that we talk about, many of those things are police-centric, but information is there for the average members of the public as well, telling them of their rights and all of that.
And it's very important because you both, when I view what you say and what you speak to, you both speak with such a grasp on policies and protocols in reference to policing, which helps all of us. And I think it's important because the police are supposed to serve us as well in reference to protecting and so on, and enforcing of the law. So when you both speak to us, it helps me. And the times when you be speaking, I'll be saying, "Oh my, I never knew that," or "It didn't occur to me that this is actually what is supposed to happen," because the wrong has been done for so long in our society that it seems sometimes to be right nowadays, and it seems to be ordinary and just acceptable. And I'm here because I've understood as I grew older that it's not always what you normally see that's right. There many times some things are written that's supposed to be right, but people just decide they're going to walk the other way. So thank you so much. So Mr. Conway, Clinton, I will not make the mistake again. Please feel free to go ahead and engage our viewers.
Well, if you're getting problem with the Clinton, just say CC and I'll be very comfortable with that. If we just go back to the ruling of Honorable Gino Prasad, we knew all along the line that it was unconstitutional. And if I may just refer to what the Attorney General said in the case involving Carville Duncan, he said, and I want to quote him verbatim, and he was talking about President David Granger. He said, the president has flagrantly violated some of the most sacrosanct constitutional procedures. And he said, in democratic countries, president and more so prime ministers have been impeached for far less. And we feel that the same, or I feel that the same words, they are applicable to our case. We will talk more about that subsequently, myself and my co-conspirator, Paul.
It is. And what concerned me, we could dwell on this for a little bit if you're willing to do so. And please, I'm not offended if you say, well, that is not something you're prepared to talk about, because we at this forum, I said we focus on independent thinking. But I believe that we had slumped into a position where persons are of the view, and still are in many cases, that the president, I call him the one who sits in the seat of the president, is just free to just make any decision and do things because the oppositions are cooperating. And there are many others, what I consider to be very silly excuses that are made. And in this instant, to have the suspension of such a critical and vital body to us as citizens, he just decided he's going to do what he did. Of course, I think it's been ventilated long enough for us to know what transpired. What, if I can ask you both, what was the driving force behind your pursuing this matter in the court of law when it involved the president of Guyana? Because of course it's not a light thing for somebody to say they're going to court to challenge a decision by a president. So you've both stepped into an arena that I consider to be very significant and encouraging to me as a young man. I'm younger than you both, so I'm still young.
What you are a young man as well. I'm a young
Thank
man.
You, sir.
Yeah.
Well, I'm younger, I hope.
Yeah, well, yes. It's all relative.
Indeed. So what would have driven your actions to head to the court and to take such a bold step, I would consider to be, but I think is a right step?
Now, let me say this. Maybe I should open the button. I know CC would not mind, because when we played cricket together for the police officers team, I always batted ahead of him. As a matter of fact, he will tell you that I was the captain of that team for a long time. So I had the prerogative of batting wherever I chose to bat. And I did not only batting. I did not only bat before him because I was the captain, because he too will agree that I was a very skillful batsman. So let me kick off. Let me open the button. let me take the new one. Now,
Praise the
this
new
is a
bar.
long, the background, as you asked, the background to this challenge. First, the main reason why this matter was challenged, because we knew that the president did not follow the constitutional steps that are set out in the Constitution for the removal or the suspension of a constitutional commissioner. So in this case, um, um, me as the chairman of the Police Service Commission and all the other members, Mr. Conway, Mr. Samasal, Mrs. Jarvis, and Adams. So we knew. So immediately this thing took place on the 16th of June 2021. We consulted the attorneys and said, look, we are going to challenge this, because it was obvious when you look at the time frame. Let me run quickly the time frame to give it some context, to contextualize the comment. We were sworn in as members of the Police Service Commission on the 9th of August 2018 by the then president, Mr. David Granger, and we immediately commenced our work. I will say this, and I'm sure I'm going to be supported by CC. When we took over the Police Service Commission, it was in turmoil. The commission, of course, they had demitted office. The one before us demitted office for some time, but there was no trust because of several allegations that were made against, people say the commission, but particular members of the commission at that time. These allegations were made. Police had openly expressed the loss of confidence in the body. The then Commissioner of Police, Silal Prasad, openly, it's on the records, openly criticized the manner in which that commission functioned. So when we went into office, we had all of those things dangling, and we sought to straighten those things out, to make sure that the commission enjoyed the confidence of the police rank. Not only confidence of those who were going to be promoted, but those who, for some reason, everybody can't be promoted at the same time. But if a person is overlooked for promotion, people would be satisfied that the process was followed, and maybe it wasn't their time. So we started to do that work. That was in 2018. We had promotions at the end of 2018, accepted by all. Of course, again, I say a few people are always going to be dissatisfied that they weren't preferred. We had promotions again in 2019. Now, we know we had elections in 2020, and the government changed in August of 2020. The president was sworn in on Sunday, the 2nd of August, 2020. We were still in the commission because the commission life is for 3 years. So we were functioning from the 9th of August 2018, and automatically the commission life would have ended on the 8th of August 2021. That is how the Constitution of Guyana sets it out. So this is the government came in August, the 2nd of August, and the records would also show that immediately many changes were made to senior positions in the Guyana Police Force. And for the viewers who might not know, the Police Service Commission is responsible for the promotion and disciplining of ranks in the Guyana Police Force, from inspector on the way to assistant commissioner. So we are the ones who promote these people, and we discipline them as well. So some changes were made, as I indicated. People were put into positions which were above the rank. So you had a position, for example, that would say it requires an assistant commissioner. People with junior to that were put in those ranks. And let me hasten to add here again that even though we do promotions and we do discipline, we are not responsible for postings or transfers. So we can decide who will work in which position. That is not a function of the Police Service Commission. It's just discipline and promotion. A lot of people focus on the promotion for obvious reasons, but it's also a crucial aspect is discipline. So government change in August of 2020. People were moved into all kind of positions. And of course, the government could not promote them. Only the Service Commission can promote them. So I had a meeting with the president on the 16th of September. The president initiated a meeting with me on the afternoon of the 16th of September 2020 at the State House in Chief Chandapal Drive. During the course of that meeting, we spoke about a lot of things, and it's there on the records. I've spoken about it before. And among the things he talked about was promotion for some specific persons. Specific names were mentioned. Well, I sought to advise, and I advised the president about the process because, interestingly, some of the names that were mentioned were people who had pending disciplinary matters. And one of the rules of the Police Service Commission is that if you have a pending disciplinary matter, you cannot be considered for promotion until that matter has been completed, which is logical. But I advised him, said, look, two of the names that he mentioned said those persons have pending disciplinary matters, and they cannot be considered for promotion until those matters have been concluded. And he said quite a number of things, and I told him as well that we had already started the process to identify those persons who should be promoted at the end of the year, because traditionally, senior promotions are made in the police force on All Year's Day, as we call it. Americans say New Year's Eve. You know, that's a tradition. There are other times as well, but we look forward to the All Year's Day promotion. And we had already started the process because the commission had instructed the secretary to write to the administration of the Ghana Police Force and ask them to provide recommendations to be considered. And we did that. Those instructions were given to the secretary since August because we wanted to make sure that the process was gone through. It's a long, if you want to get it right, it is a tedious process. So we gave them enough time. And I must say here, and I'm sure, I don't know if CC remembers this, because after this meeting with the president on the 16th of September, when I reported to the commission and sought to find out, the commission sought to find out from the secretary what is the position with the instruction. We then learned that the letter that we had instructed was not dispatched to the police as yet. And the commission actually rebuked the secretary and told him, and then it wasn't anything deliberate. It was just, I believe, one of those administrative snafus. But the secretary was then instructed to go send off the letter to the police, and we were a bit miffed about it because it then would appear to anyone who did not know the background that it's only because of the meeting that I had with the president that this thing was being sent out. But that wasn't the case. The instructions were given long before. Anyhow, the thing went off. And as we said, it went off, and we were then awaiting the time to enter into discussions. The police administration could not have met the deadline that we gave them. We gave them a deadline to submit the recommendations. They requested an extension, which obviously was granted. You can't refuse to grant them the extension under those circumstances. So we say yes, extension was granted to them. Now, on the 17th of December, 2020, a few officers, he was then Senior Superintendent Brutus, joined by Superintendent, what's his name, Mani, Chief Prasad Bakas is his name now, I think, Rabindranath Stanley, Shavan Jupiter, and Prem Narayan, and Juan Prasad, can't remember his first name now. They got Attorney C.V. Chatram to send letters to the chairman of the Police Service Commission, basically saying that they have matters pending. They know they have disciplinary matters pending. They know that because of the pending disciplinary matters, they are not likely to be considered for promotion. And then they were urging or demanding that those matters be concluded so that they can be considered, and further threatened that should the Police Service Commission go ahead with promotions without those matters being completed, then they are going to move to the court to nullify the proceedings. That is what these officers, again, let me call the name, Calvin Brutus, Rabindranath Stanley. Let me again for the viewers. Calvin Brutus is now Assistant Commissioner Administration of the Ghana Police Force. Rabindranath Stanley, when last I checked, he was the man at second in command at Region 4B, that is East Bank. Then we have Chief Prasad Bakas, who is now a senior superintendent. Sally is now a superintendent. Bacchus is now a senior superintendent. He's in charge of Region 6 Police Division, that is at East Berbice. We have Prem Narain, who was promoted from inspector to superintendent. He is now the detective officer in Region 2. And Shavan Jivita, who was promoted from assistant superintendent to superintendent, she holds some position. I'm not sure what is her position. So those are the ones who challenge. And again, the time is important. On the 17th of December, at that time, the Police Service Commission had not met to consider promotions as yet. So they tried to preempt this thing. We met for the first time. We received the recommendations from the police force. And we met for the first time on the 23rd of December, and we created what is known as a promotion shortlist. Okay. Now, let me explain that to our viewers. Now, the force as a fixed establishment tells you should have one commissioner, so many deputy commissioners, so many senior superintendents, all along the line. So when you meet, and invariably when returns are sent, they are going to send recommendations for more persons in a particular rank than vacancies that exist in the particular rank. So, for example, there might be vacancies for 4 assistant commissioners. They might send recommendation for 6 or 7, as the case may be. So you have to now go through this and to see who are the ones who are deserving of the promotion. Right. Quite interestingly as well, they might decide that someone who might enjoy seniority in the list, they might tell you that that person should not be considered. So we have to investigate why. Why are you not considering the person? The person is senior. And so it's a very tedious process. So we started that process on the 23rd of December, and a shortlist was created. The very evening, I traveled home, and again, I was asked to make contact with the president. And this is not through official channels, you know, these are basically back channels, right? So the meeting on the 16th of September, not an official channel, back channel. Again, on the 23rd of December, back channel. And as I've said repeatedly, and you know, they say when you tell the truth, you don't have to remember, you have to memorize anything. Exactly. You don't have to memorize anything. Quite so true. When I got the call and I was asked to make contact, I was reluctant to do so. Because having regards to the meeting we had on the 16th of September, having regards to the fact that the commission met the very day to consider, I had a feeling that that was what the president wanted to talk about. And I knew then that it would have been so inappropriate for president to be speaking to the chairman of the Police Service Commission on the very day that the commission sat. So I did not call initially. But then I received calls again to say, man, look, the man basically is waiting on this call. So eventually and reluctantly, the discipline in me came to the fore. So I call the on his private cell phone number. I call him, and we had a discussion. We started out nicely, and then he told me that he was somewhere on the East Coast to some meeting and all of that. And then he asked specifically about the promotion process. I told him that yes, the commission met that day, and we had created a short list. He then asked specifically about Brutus and Karim Bash. He asked for those persons. And I told him, I said, well, as I indicated to you some time ago, those gentlemen, and I'm using the term very loosely here, they have pending disciplinary matters, and they cannot be considered at this time. And according to Paul Keynes Douglas, who tell me say that? Who tell me say that? He flew off on the IRs. And how long will this matters be pending? And people get matters pending, and they use that as an excuse for not promoting people, and he carried on. So I said, well, that is not so in this case. Sorry. I try to be as polite as I can. Right? That is not so. I even told him then that in one case, in the case of Karimash, he had a matter before the High Court, not only disciplinary matters, but after disciplinary matters were instituted against him, he moved to the High Court to challenge the process. I told him that, right? I told him that. And he carried on, and the conversation ended. Obviously, he was irate. He was not satisfied. That conversation ended, and not the same night, because I think that was around 8 o'clock the night and so on. The very next day, I think it was, I reported to the other members, you know, we have a WhatsApp group and thing. So I told them exactly what had transpired. The next day, remember this is, again, I want to go through this timeline very carefully so we can understand. So you have a situation where on the 23rd, the commission met to consider promotion. President conversation with the president the night of the 23rd. The very next day, the 24th of December, Christmas Eve Day, 2020, the Minister of Home Affairs, Robeson Ben, communicated with the person who was carrying out the functions of the Commissioner of Police, Nigel Appy, that he should initiate, or he should charge several police ranks for variant offenses, right? They should charge them for variant offenses. And later on, you peruse the document that was produced, all the offenses that they were alleging were offenses which were said to be committed during the election period, the impasse. So, for example, the late Cooper was there on the list to be charged, and they said that you should be charged for dereliction of duty. That is to say, when he was the commander of Region 5 during the protests, which erupted after the killing of the Henry boys and arresting, that he did not take action. Even went on to say that how he assisted the protesters, provided transportation for the protesters. That was the allegation made. I have those things in writing. Those documents are there. So they made those allegations against him. They made allegations against Senior Superintendent Azur and a whole set of people. We have the list. I have the list of the allegations that were made. That is on the 24th of December. Ben communicated that to the commissioner. The very 24th day of December, Calvin Brutus, sitting there as administration, wrote to these people, Cooper, Simon, Azur, to tell them that they were being investigated, and he mentioned variant offenses by SOCU and by CID headquarters. We were convinced, we met sometime after, we were convinced that that was done in an effort to prevent us from promoting those persons. Because having indicated to the president that persons with pending disciplinary matters cannot be considered, then we realized later that the short list that we created was leaked to Brutus. And I have no doubt that the president would have seen that short list as well, because Brutus said that in an affidavit before the court. He wrote in an affidavit before the court to say that the promotion shortlist was leaked to him by a confidential source at the Police Service Commission. So then we realized that I realized that the conversation he had with the president, he knew who the people were who were shortlisted. And that is why they initiated that process on Christmas Eve Day in 2020. However, when we met again, I think it was around the 30th of December to further consider this list. This letter, by then they had sent it on to the Police Service Commission to say that these people have pending criminal charges. The whole process was improper, and we discussed it, because when I say improper, I mean that all correspondence from the police force, emanating from the police force, comes from the Commissioner of Police or under the hand of the Commissioner of Police. So if someone is signing, they have to sign on behalf of the Commissioner of Police. In this case, the correspondence came from Senior Superintendent Brutus, and he did not sign on behalf of the Commissioner of Police. So we thought that very irregular. We had a discussion of that, and it was the agreement. We were advised by the Secretary, Jaigobin Jai Singh, that having regards to all that I said, that document should not be considered. We disregarded the document because we saw it for what it was, and we continued with our deliberations, and we did that. Now, we were in the final process of preparing the promotion list for 2020 when Brutus and those persons that I mentioned moved to the court via a fixed date application, which was ordered by the Chief Justice, Madam Roxanne George, basically to stop the promotion. And while we were in the meeting, we got word from the legal officer, the Police Service Commission, that the Chief Justice had ordered that the status quo in the force should be maintained. In other words, that an injunction was placed on the promotion. And that impede, that stopped it from happening. Again, interestingly, the promotion had not been made. You know, they run around and they tell a lot of lies. We had not made the promotion. We had not finalized the list. But here you have a situation because of this leaked shortlist, and those persons knew they were not on the shortlist. They moved to court to challenge the promotion, which had not been made. The promotion had not been made, and they moved to court to challenge it. So they went through the process. We could not have done anything. We could not have done anything. Then and I know CC's gonna come in and CC's gonna talk, but you know when you open the button, you gotta try to bat the 4, leave it at 20 over. You gotta try to bat the 20 over, 50 over. That is how it must start. You bat as long as you can bat. And when you get too long up and so on, you hit it out to the ground. So CC, forgive me, but I'm gonna go through this thing in detail. I want to give people the context in all of it. Good background. So all right. So we are there now. The matter called, put off, you know, the usual thing. When the matter was called the first time, this is his Brutus challenge. When it was called the first time, the Attorney General, Moabir Anil Nandalal, represented, he was enjoined, because it was the AG, the Police Service Commission. So he went there and he asked the Chief Justice for some time, because he said that this matter, police challenging the Service Commission, and all that was ventilated in public doesn't look good. And therefore, he wanted an opportunity to mediate. He wanted to speak to the parties. And the Chief Justice granted him that. We had 2 meetings. The members, at the time, I was traveling. And I remember very well, I was halfway around the world. So I had to wake up like about 3 o'clock one day to join one of the meetings. The persons who were in Ghana, they joined physically at the meeting at the AG's chamber. I joined via Zoom. Now, they wanted to convince us that these people should be considered. And I, on behalf of the commission, and the commissioners made the points of view known as well, that look, this amounts to blackmail. You can't have us in court and then trying to mediate for us to promote you. I said that can't work.
No,
we were firm in our view that if you want any meaningful discussion, you have to discontinue the court proceedings. You're not going to get a gun to our head and negotiate. So we had 2 meetings. There were 2 meetings, because I remember well, by the time it came around to the second meetings, Cooper and some other officers had retained counsel to represent them, because I remember they are the ones who they said should be charged and they didn't want to promote. So, all right. So no agreement was reached. So the matter proceeded through its stages in court. Matter going through the court, arguments, heard, and so on. I remember then it got to the point where on the matter was scheduled to be, a decision was scheduled to be delivered on the 18th of June. On the 18th of June. Now, let me back up a bit to tell you that on the 19th of May 2021, Mr. Conway there and some other retired officers were arrested by Soku. They were arrested. And what for? We were asked, the retired officers, myself, Mr. Conway, Mr. Whitaker, Mr. George Fraser, Mr. Mark Gilbert, we were asked by the Commissioner of Police, the then Commissioner of Police, Mr. Leslie James, to assist the force in revising the standing orders. Now, the standing order, the force, is like the Bible.
Right.
And it has not been revised for years, and many of the things were no longer applicable. We were asked to revise. So, yeah, we agreed. We agreed and to revise. And again, I can't go much into this because this matter is before the court, where we were charged with conspiracy to commit fraud. But shortly after the discussion to start the standing order, to revise the standing order, the police administration decided that they were going to give us a stipend for the work that we were doing. And we accepted the stipend. Now, that became an issue, and they decided that accepting a stipend to do this work is amongst a conspiracy to commit fraud. This matter is before the court. It comes up on the 26th of next month. Again, I'm not going to go into any details. So we were charged. At the same time, or sometime after then, an allegation was made by a female officer who was there Nicola Kendall, she's now a superintendent, that during the course of these meetings on 3 days, I placed my hands on her leg and my foot on her.
I remember.
Right. So they said that there is sexual assault. I am charged for that. Now, the 19th, Mr. Conway and the other officers in Guyana were arrested. The very day, the very 19th, the Prime Minister, Mr. Mark Phillips, sent letters to myself and Mr. Conway for us to show cause, having regards to the fact that we were charged, that for us to show cause why he should not advise the president to have us removed from the Police Service Commission. Timeline again. The charge on the 19th, the very day the Prime Minister can write a letter to ask us. And I remember well, because when the matter was filed, it was in the afternoon of the 19th. The afternoon of the 19th. So the next morning, Conway and the others who were there went to court, right? In this matter, pleading not guilty, put on bail. So again, even before the persons appeared in court, the Prime Minister writes to two of us to show cause. And we replied. I retained, on behalf of myself and Mr. Conway, Mr. Selwyn Peters, attorney out of Canada. And due credit to Selwyn had as his assistant Toby King, we put together a response, 500 and something pages, were sent by the deadline given by the Prime Minister. We sent that. On the 1st of June, so here you have a show cause letter on the 19th of May for us to show cause why the Prime Minister should not advise the President to have us removed from the Service Commission. On the 1st of June, the Prime Minister sent another show cause letter, this time to all members of the Police Service Commission, saying, on this occasion, why he should not advise the President to have us removed, because we joined with Member Parliament Ganesh Maipal to challenge the constitutionality of the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act. This is a long story. I can't go into it now. So that was the reason for the second show cause letter. That was on the 1st of June. And we were given, I think, 8 days or something like that to reply. We asked for an extension. The extension wasn't granted, and therefore we put together a response, nevertheless, by the appropriate time. On the 16th of June, 2021, each member of the Police Service Commission, that is myself, Mr. Conway, Mr. Sawasal, Mrs. Adams, and Jarvis, received a letter from the President to say that we are suspended with immediate effect. Well, once you looked at the letter and you read Article 225 of the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, we recognize right away the President had violated the Constitution.
Right.
Because the Constitution spells out the process for suspending or removing a member of the Commission, and they did not do that. So immediately well, first of all, the lawyer wrote to the President to advise him, you are violating the Constitution.
Yes, I remember that letter.
A long letter. And we have all of these documents, all of these things. You wrote him that you are violating the Constitution. You cannot suspend because the conditions precedent were not. That is to say, there was no Judicial Service Commission, and the Constitution says that the Judicial Service Commission must be involved in that process. Now, so all right, we suspend. We were advised by the lawyer that with regards to the illegality, the unconstitutionality of that process, we should continue doing our work.
Right.
Which we did. We continue to meet and to continue to do our work. Now, the decision, fast forward again, playing shots, playing shots. I like Johnson Charles today, but the only difference is that I'm going to come out, my team is going to come out victorious. Right. My team is going to come out victorious. I ain't breaking no record and then lose. So the Chief Justice was scheduled to deliver the judgment on the challenge brought by Bootus and others on the 18th of June, 2021. The 18th of June. The purported suspension letters were sent to us on the 16th of June, 2 days before. Now, I was, and the other members, we were convinced that the reason why that was done is because the president, the attorney general, they knew that the chief justice would have ruled against Brutus, and then we would have been able to proceed with our work unhindered with our work. And they did not want the commission to be in place when the decision was rendered on the 18th of June 2021. The only reason is logical. Even as I say, even Ray Charles would see that. However, the Chief Justice did not give the decision on the 18th. She put it off for the 28th. And on the 28th, the decision was rendered where she threw out all the challenges brought by Brutus and the others. Because among the things they said, well, among the things she said, first of all, on the 18th, when she had a hearing on the 18th, she made the point, and she said when she looked at the documents, Brutus, who is a contender for promotion, is writing to his rivals. That's the word, that's our word. He's writing to his rivals to tell them that they are being investigated. And she asked a question of the life that does not appear to be improper. At which stage, the lawyer, Mr. C.V. Shatram, said, well, you know, he wrote because he's the admin man, but he's not the one to do the investigation. So she said, well, why the people who were to do the investigation did not write? And in her final judgment, she made some scathing remarks. She reported was self-serving and all of that, right? Right, she reported him. So there's a 28, and the thing rendered. Now, once the judgment was rendered, we went ahead and we released the promotion, which was in abeyance since December the 31st, 2020. That was on the 28th. The next day, the Attorney General on his program Issues in the News on NCN declared that the government would not accept the promotions made by the Police Service Commission. Right? So, as we said, we challenged it, worked its way. Let me wind it down to this part. Now, once we challenged it, the president was named in the rubric, and this is fancy legal language. In other words, when you name the names at the top, the president was named as the third respondent.
Right.
The secretary, I think it was the number one respondent. I can't remember. The president was named as the third respondent. When the matter came up, because this is Justice Gino Prasad now was assigned to hear the matter, the Attorney General challenged the naming of the president in this lawsuit that we brought. And of course, you had legal arguments which ran for some time, and eventually the judge ruled that it was wrong to name the president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana in this lawsuit because he said the president enjoys immunity under the Constitution.
Yes.
And they ordered that the president name be removed from the rubric, which we did. Now, when we did that, the judge now was in the process of setting timelines to the Attorney General and us to submit documentation, where they said submit argument, written argument, and so on. The Attorney General then immediately advised the judge that he had filed an application to discontinue the entire proceedings on the grounds that by that time the Police Service Commission life had ended. And let me again ask, the 16th of June suspension, right? 16th of June, the matter is to be heard on the 18th. The matter was eventually ordered. Decision was rendered on the 28th. The life of the commission was due to end automatically on the 8th of August 2021. And the question I would ask any right-thinking person, why would the president violate the Constitution and suspend the Police Service Commission on the 16th of June 2021 when the life of the commission would have automatically ended on the 8th of August 2021? Exactly. And the only logical answer, they did not want the commission in place when the Chief Justice rendered her decision.
Most definitely.
That is so logical, right? So he then argued that the life of the commission had ended on the 8th of August, and therefore this matter should not continue because it was the Police Service Commission versus these, the applicant versus these persons. Again, legal arguments and all sort of run around. These things go in the court. Eventually, I think it was in March last year, I got to research and get the deeds because I'm going to write all of these things for people to see. You're going to be there for the public to see, but I'm researching to get all the deeds.
Yes.
The judge ruled that notwithstanding the fact that the life of the Police Service Commission had ended, that is Justice Gino Prasad, this matter was of sufficient public interest to be
Right.
continued and ordered and determined on the merits of the president's action. Right?
Yeah.
So he ruled that. And what he did then, he said the fact that the police service commission, the life of the police service commission had ended, he ordered that Paul Slowe be made to be there in the place and stead of the police service commission. So the matter now, instead of the police service commission, the matter now became Paul Slowe versus these people.
Yes.
The attorney general wasn't satisfied with that. He appealed that to the full court of Guyana. Because his argument was the fact that the commission life ended, this matter should fall apart. He appealed the judge's decision to the full court. The full court upheld the decision of Justice Gino Prasad. They made one alteration. They said rather than substituting Paul Slowe should be added as an applicant. So I was then added as an applicant. So again, I was there. Not satisfied with the full court ruling, the Attorney General, Nandalal, then sought leave of the full court to appeal this matter to the appeal court. And the leave was denied. The full court said there was nothing to appeal further. This is a clear-cut thing. Let the matter be. So then Justice Gino Prasad set this timeline and so on, and the matter then proceeded. Statements submitted, affidavits submitted. The matter was argued, I think, on sometime in January, and the decision was rendered on Friday. We knew all along that when you read the Constitution, right, the president acted on Constitution. He argued the basis of the argument was that the commission, and here again, I'm going to deal with this not tonight, but at some time I'll be dealing with it. The Prime Minister, Mark Phillips, the Secretary to the Police Service Commission, Jaigabin Jai Singh, swore to affidavits and told a pack of lies in those affidavits to give the impression that this commission that I chaired was so rogue, that is a word used by the Attorney General, was so rogue that it was imperative that the president suspend us, notwithstanding the fact that the Constitution sets out a particular process, but it was a necessity. And the judge addressed that in his ruling on Friday. Said there was no civil unrest, there was no thing that you can say, well, the doctrine of necessity, which should be seldomly used. The judge thing with that. They also argued that the fact that Conway and I were charged criminally, that was sufficient grounds. And the judge again pointed the Attorney General's direction to Article 144 of the Constitution of Guyana, which talks about the presumption of innocence until proven guilty.
That's right.
And he went on and he the thing. So I understand. I saw, matter of fact, when we started here, I was, and let me say publicly, there's nothing wrong with saying it. I was transcribing the comments made by the Attorney General Friday night on NCN. You know, he had a program there where he said he's going to appeal, and he said a lot of nonsense. And we will address that on Wednesday. We will address it in detail on Wednesday. But that is where we, and let me say this. When I retained on behalf of the commission, Mr. Selwyn Peters, back in June of 2021, in one of the very early discussions we had, we made it clear that we have got to cross the T's and dot the I's, because this matter was likely to go all the way to the CCJ. Yeah. And therefore, everything that we did with a view that it might go to appeal and it might go all the way, and therefore we wanted to make sure that we have our ducks lined up as they would see. Yeah. And therefore, the Attorney General can jump high, can jump low. He can go to the CCJ appeal court first. After that, because we are confident the decision by Justice Prasad will be upheld.
And of course.
And then he can go to the CCJ, which he think he will. Because I know in IE money, it's our taxpayers' money he's spending. He can go all the way there. We are confident that we are going to prevail right through the legal process. We are confident about that. But I just made me 100. I just made me century.
You did.
I'm not going to retire out, but I'm going to just take a single, and I'm going to go to the non-striker end.
Well, the ball is lost at Sheen. And I must you've done very well. The feeling side is certainly depleted morally, but we have Mr. Conway, CC, if I may call you that. What was driven you? Of course, I thank Mr. Slowe for retired assistant commissioner for so aptly, and because it was following the case so diligently, your representation of the facts are just consistent. It just blows my mind. And as a civilian, throughout this month, I was concerned about one main thing, and that was addressed tonight by you in such a very, very profound way. I was concerned about the coincidences in reference to how things were transpiring. To me, because I loved law and I and so on in university, I did a little bit of it when I was studying. I said, how could anybody in their right mind? I mean, I call it having no shame in organic vernacular. You don't got shame. Because to do things, you have a date approaching, and let us just start through. People start being charged, and all. I think now who cannot see through this? Is it that nobody cares that Ghanaians should be respected, or there are some intellectuals in society who can just see through the nonsense? It was very, very embarrassing to me as a Guyanese, and very upsetting too, to know that the lengths to which people would go to embarrass the state, and the length to which elected officials and selected officials will go to embarrass us in the process of getting at some people who they thought were hindering whatever and of course we saw in the end what it became. So thank you so much. Thank you very much for taking the new ball. Mr. Conway, tell us please, in your now you're facing the bowling. He's upset that he was hit for so many boundaries. So let's see how you handle it. What drove you to this point to stand in such a resolute way to oppose what I consider to be the president of Ghana in this situation?
Okay, Paul, you didn't have to rub it in, man, that I'm a tail ender. There were times when I opened the button and I feel I'm a better tailor than the West Indian tail enders, man. But I won't behave like them and fire a few wild swipes and get out. And thanks for a long and fruitful innings. It's a winning innings. Let me say, from the inception, after we were suspended, we felt, and also our team of legal advisors, that the president is a creature of the Constitution. He is not a supreme leader. I heard the Attorney General mention Friday about the supreme leader. He's not the supreme leader. We're not in North Korea. We are in Guyana. And if the president has flagrantly breached the Constitution, or he should bow down and say, mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa, he must say that. But the Attorney General has engaged in a big, long presentation, talking a lot of nonsense and a lot of poppycock, which we will address later on. But let's get back to law enforcement. Law enforcement has a rigorous standard. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt. I repeat, proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Not because you charge somebody, that means to say they're guilty. Judge Gino Prasad had stress on it, and he commented on it. And in addition to that, there must be a wall that separates law enforcement from political decisions. That law must be sacrosanct. Yes. And we've been having many, many instances, I can talk all night, with this present government, where they had political interference in the Guyana police force. And we must not allow that to happen. Therefore, we decided that we're going to oppose, or we're going to contest, the decision of the president to unlawfully suspended us. As Paul mentioned, they couldn't wait for another 2 months. They're in a hurry. And they want us to promote incompetent people, people with serious disciplinary charges. And they did promote them, because this present police service commission that is not lawfully constituted and is headed by a bishop. They made a promotion in July. On the 1st of July, the bishop, and thank Bishop Patrick Finley, he said in an interview, and I have it recorded, I was trained by the #1 law enforcement authority in the world to record things and store them for posterity. And I have it. They did pull it down afterward. Where he's saying on the 1st of July that, hey, I am awaiting the recommendations from the Commissioner of Police so that we can make promotion. And on the morning of the 2nd of July, 250-something police officers were promoted. Many with serious disciplinary matters pending. They promoted persons who weren't in the job. They promoted a woman twice. There was no due diligence. And we knew, we found out that, hey, the things that they were sending to us, we had to go through them with a fine teeth comb. We had to do that. It was more corrupt than the voters list. We had to go through everything. So the thing is that we weren't prepared to promote incompetence. We didn't want to wake up resurrect Dr. Peter. Well, I had a bishop there, perhaps he like Jesus Christ, resurrected Dr. Peter and promoted incompetence. So the thing is that the president can't do as he's like. And we will never stand up and allow that to happen. Apparently, they underestimated us. They thought that we would just say, all right, as a suspend, let me go along with it. But we believe in the rule of law, and we believe in justice and fair play. So Nandela could run to CCJ, spend the people money, and if he spend the people money and go CCJ, perhaps that might be a serious offense committed. But the thing is that we decided that the president is not a supreme leader, that he is a creature of the Constitution, and he has to abide with the Constitution. He has to bow down to the Constitution. That is why we decided to challenge it. And Paul, thanks for giving me an opportunity to score a couple of runs. And you didn't take all.
You've done well.
Yeah, well, the target, you see, we have a great target to chase, and therefore, I know you got to get runs on both ends. You can't just depend on one batsman.
Okay. I'm grateful, and I of course I'm sitting here as a civilian and representing so many others. It is my heart's desire to see this, what I consider to be unfortunate aspect of law, be removed, where presidents enjoy, as they say, immunity. I can understand why it's done in some instances, because you don't want to have a president run to the court in 2-3 days because somebody has an issue. But I believe that, and I think it's there, where matters of a certain gravity exist, the president must be made to answer, because the president, they swear to uphold the Constitution.
The Constitution, yeah.
Now, you could only swear to uphold what is above you in reference to authority. But it seems if finally is sworn to stand on the Constitution in so many things that I've seen. See, but let's dive deeper into the innings now, where something happened. I hope that you're both aware of it, and we're speaking here to gun licensing. We know, or I'm aware of in Guyana, that it's not an easy task, or it should not be in reference to what society has taught us, to acquire a license for a firearm. I was told that I'd be denied almost instantaneously. Now, I'm a farmer, I have poultry and so on to deal with, and I'm told that no, and it wouldn't happen. It's a tedious task. Then one time I was told if I can find $1 million or $1.5 million, I can pay and I can get it, because it will go through the right hands and I acquire one. Now, in Linden, we have a matter where 2 cousins were involved in an altercation, reportedly, and one ended up shooting the other, who is now deceased. The young man is reported in the news as to being the possessor of a license. He's 27 years old. Now, I asked, and many other people have been asking, now, how old was this young man when he got the license? And how normal is it for a 27-year-old young man to acquire a license to carry a firearm, which is now used, of course, and has caused the death of his cousin? Now, can you two gentlemen please help us as civilians to understand the procedure involved in this and how easy it is or how difficult it should be, either way, for someone to possess the license to carry a firearm? Now, please take note. I have also observed that it seems as though the children of those who are closely connected to the PPP are able to carry firearms in this country. And I need that to be addressed on this platform here, because I'm aware of this. That it seems as though the fathers who have connections and the sons who have connections are now able to be equipped with weapons. And the others who are, I call lackeys or friends of the party, who I see around London who possessing weapons. So please speak to us about that, because I'm concerned about it as a civilian. Very concerned.
Yeah, well, this is the second match, and as it's the second match, the batting order is likely to change. So I'm going to ask CC to open the batting in this second match. Seeing that he played so well in the first match, and we won, so I'm going to give him the outcome. We actually win the series already, so therefore he's going to be put down to open, because this match is of academic interest. CC, go ahead, please.
Okay, as I understand it, firearm application starts with when let me put it another way, that you can go on the Ministry of Home Affairs website and there is an application form that you fill up there. You can send it to the Commissioner of Police or Divisional Commanders, and it is recorded at Force headquarters, and then the applicant is informed of the procedure. Now, it goes right down back to the station where the person is operating to be issued with a firearm. And it should go through a rigorous process. One might say he's a businessman, he's a farmer, and all sorts of things. And the thing is that sometimes what they wrote in those applications, it is not true. Tell he's a farmer and police should visit the farm and they carry it to someone by the farm. I remember when I was the assistant superintendent in charge of Romwell Police Station, I think it was 1989. I got an application, a report from the sergeant at that station, and it states that this person was a trader, and he travels regularly to the Caribbean, North America, and Europe to conduct his business. And they as they say, they butter him up. Mm-hmm. So it came to me, and I said, this is a person I should know. And from since then, I started interview all those persons who apply for firearm, especially if they recommended. And the thing is that, I said, you said you travel regularly to the Caribbean, North America, and Europe, conduct your business. I say, let me bring your passport, let's see. And in his passport, there's one entry, he went to Trinidad and came back. So I know he was going backtrack and do things that people will write all sorts of things in their application, and also in the police there will sometimes for the sake of ordering a couple of dollars, they will write things that aren't true. So the point I wish to make that at the subdivisional level, that person there should make sure that a proper investigation is done. And then it goes to the divisional commander. And the divisional commander, he should not delegate authority to anybody. The responsibility for firearm approval lies with the commander in the division and nobody. Now, not twice or thrice he would send it to headquarters. It goes to headquarters, review by the commissioner, also special branch has a role there, CID headquarters as a role there. And it is sent to a body called the Firearm Board, which I feel is illegal. who would advise the minister, and the minister would advise the commission. That's really the official process. But that isn't being done. You pay, as you mentioned, 1.5, but it depends on the caliber, and you can get it. And I mentioned before that Chief Chandra Paul Drive, Young Street, a house in Rob Street, and then I recently a house in Lamaha Street, and an office northwest of Brickdown Police Station. You pay your money there and you get your firearm. And it's not only businessmen and farmers and other people. It's not only the work you're doing, your mentality.
Indeed.
Your mentality, your mental state is critical, is important. I used to put them under certain stressful situation without them knowing, to test them to see how they react to certain situations. Not because you're a billionaire that you must get firearm. Sometimes you're an abuser. You're beating up your wife. You're beating up your family. You're hot-tempered. That you need to look at the man's mental state also before he's issued.
Yeah,
But
and
that doesn't mean happening. You pay your money, and you get and you get your firearm.
Yeah, because I
Yes.
was about sorry, but I have to interject right here and ask of you, would
Yeah.
you not as well the person's social behavior? If the person is a social drinker, they like to drink the liquor and so on, would that shouldn't that be considered?
Yeah, I agree with that, and I would put it under your mentality. You know, the way how you behave when you go to sports. You fire rounds in the air and all those kind of things. Yes, it's a good question, and it's important that you look at the social life of the person, and not because you're a political activist that you must get. No way, no way. They must go through a vigorous examination before they are recommended for firearm. I think I'm close enough, you know.
Regarding age, anything but age should comes into play.
Well, unless you're mature, yeah. I don't even think I would want to give a 25-year-old a recommend a firearm unless he's extremely mature. You have to show maturity. Not because your father is a big one in the place you get firearm, or your father get firearm, you must get. No. Maturity is important. And I'm glad you raised that point, Pastor.
Thank you, because and of course, Mrs. Slowe, you can speak to this. It's honestly a very, very hot topic, as they say here in the community, because I was told that the young man got his firearm at 25 and he's 27. I don't mind if it's 25, 26, 27. The point is that too many people I know in this community are possessing weapons, and their demeanor doesn't lend itself to them having them. And more than anything else, because of their political affiliation, there are people now who are saying I'm PPP, and they go on hanging out with certain people, and now I see them with weapons. So there seems to be something that, or it is something I would like for the two of you to really address publicly, since it's a concern we have here in Linden and across Guyana. Because remember this, the matter with a barber who had a weapon and killed his wife. A barber. So, Mrs. Slowe, over to you.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to come in on this subject. Now, I wrote a letter to the media some time ago, and I think in one of the newspapers it was captioned, "Too many guns in the tongue."
Yeah.
I did a research which shows that Guyana has one of the highest number of firearms per capita in the world. I have that. I did the research. Check it out. You will see it's there. Highest number is 18 point something per 100,000 persons, right? One of the highest. I think the United States might be ahead on a few countries, but it's definitely the highest in the Anglophone Caribbean. Highest by far. Higher than Jamaica, higher than Trinidad per capita. And my big concern. Pardon me?
Find the letter.
It's in the Starbrook News. I have it on my computer. I can email it to you immediately follow. But anyone who goes on Starbrook News, and I think it was also in Kaicho News some months back, it's there. I wrote that letter. It's there. I quoted the figures. I quoted the countries ahead of it. And apart from the fact that people who should be nowhere near a firearm, are allowed to acquire and use a firearm, one of the concerns that I have as well, which I have addressed repeatedly, is the fact that there is no type of training. We have a situation in Guyana, and I can speak with authority on this because those of you who know, some people may not know, but when I started my career, CC would tell, I was a firearm instructor for the Guyana Police Force. I was a leading firearm instructor in the Guyana Police Force. And then still have a very close association with the Guyana Rifle Association. I've represented the country in rifle shooting. I have represented the force in shooting at all levels. So I know something about guns. And you have a situation where not only are they allowed to acquire this firearm, but when they get their license, they do a very rudimentary piece of instruction, maybe lasts for an hour and no more. And that's it. You don't have a situation where persons have to requalify. And when I talk about persons here, I'm not only talking about civilians, I'm talking here too about policemen you see around the road carrying firearms. I'm talking about security guards carrying firearms. We have had, look for example, not so long ago, this was written about as well. You had some 18-year-old man who's a security guard, give him a 9mm pistol to work in Border Market.
Yes.
He claimed that he was clearing the weapon. He shot himself through the palm and shot a 15-year-old. And all of those things have gone have been swept under the carpet. Those things are swept. So many instances I showed on my show not so long ago. A security guard walking in a supermarket places the muzzle or the mouth, as you would say, of a shotgun on his foot and end up shooting off his toe. You had one in the East Bank playing Russian roulette with the firearm that he's given, shot somebody nearby. We had a situation where in the Princess Hotel compound, 2 security guards get into an argument over some parking, and one pull a pistol and shoot the next one in his leg. So clearly, something is definitely wrong. When it comes to the civilian component in it, it is no secret in Guyana. It is absolutely no secret that you have to pay to play.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, I was told that.
No matter who you are, if you can find the 1.5 million or you can find whatever amount is demanded, forget about the firearm licensing board and all of that. Because this firearm licensing board is political. Because if you look at the process, and that is mentioned too in the letter that I wrote. In our days, in my days, the police commander made the recommendation and the commissioner. And that is not the law, That was not the law. The law is clear that the person to grant the license is the police commander, the divisional commander. Check the law, the Firearm Act. The police divisional commander is the person. But that was taken away some time ago. And interestingly, the commissioner issues, the Ministry of Home Affairs send lists for the commissioner to issue, and nobody challenges that because, of course, you get your gun, you are comfortable. But the only person who can revoke or who go through the process of revocation is the divisional police commander, which tells you something. The commissioner of police don't revoke. The minister don't revoke because they know that is not the law. The law is that the police divisional commander. So they follow the law as it relates to the revocation of a license, which I understand is rare now. But when it comes to the issuing of license, that's what happened. I know in our time, the policy was consideration should be given to businessmen. And of course, you have to establish your bona fides as a businessman. And as CC pointed out, your temperament and all of these things were taken into consideration. I remember as a divisional commander, people make application and all kind of thing they write. How they get how many $100,000 business per day, and therefore they need the firearm for the protection, all sort of thing. They're the richest people in the world. And I used to say to them, well, let me see your tax return for the last 2 years if you're so successful. And that used to be the end of the process in many cases. If you're so successful, then let's see what type of taxes you're paying. And nothing goes in. But businessmen were given preference, right? Farmers were given preference and preference for shotguns because you know that if you have a farm, sometimes animals will come and destroy your crops. So once we satisfied that you are a legitimate farmer and maybe we even visited and you were able to show evidence of your crops being damaged by wild animals, yeah, you're considered and you're given a firearm. And the third category that was given preference was the Amerindians. Our Amerindian brothers in the interior were given preference to shotgun because many of them use a shotgun to hunt for
Yeah.
animals to live on,
That,
to
that's
get
just
meat and so on. So those three categories were the people who were considered, well, not only considered, but were given preference. And after a thorough investigation, right? And the thing changed now, not the police any longer. It goes to the firearm licensing board. The firearm licensing board, incidentally, was appointed by the minister of Home Affairs. And then the thing says, and check the letter, I research it and I have it there, that once the firearm licensing board, they go through that process of examining the application, it goes back to the minister who has the final say. So let's just say the thing is political, and that is why the thing is it goes back to the minister. The commissioner now, based on the guidelines in the new the arrangement, is just administrative according to the guidelines. So once the minister agrees, administrative in the sense that he sends it to the commissioner for the commissioner to write to the person to tell the person that the approval has been granted for them to obtain the firearm license. That is what it is, and that is why you have all this problem, all the corruption in the system. And as somebody said here, the same thing that you mentioned, a barber gets a firearm license and he shoots and kills his wife. You have many other persons. Not so long ago, a couple of years back, if you recall, there was an incident in Middle Street where a businessman who clearly tripped off, and the people had said that he should have never gotten a firearm. He shot and killed a police, shot and killed a few other people before the police eventually were able to take him out. So, because what you have to, as I've said in Guyana, people, there is no requalifying process. So once you get this firearm license, no, there's absolutely no requirement for you to satisfy that you still can still see, you can still walk. There's nothing like that. So you just turn up and they renew the license and it keeps on going like that. The same thing with police, policemen who you see running around this place with firearm, security guards mushrooming with all kind of high-powered weapons and so on. Most of them do not have proper training. Most of them do not have proper training. It's a very frightening thing to see what is going on in Guyana. Every corner you turn, every corner,
somebody has a weapon.
Some security, and I put security in quotes, some security with some high-powered firearm there. And many times firearm go off because of lack of training. I mentioned the one about the man who shoot your foot. There are other instances we have been following in the news where people firing when there is absolutely no justification. Absolutely. Look, coming back to the police, we remember New Year's Day at Huntley Myconi, right? With this boy Dwayne McPherson, the detective corporal, end up dead. And Kishan Bodbor end up dead also. They called to the police. The corporal went to arrest this man. They end up in a scuffle, and the other police say he fired a few rounds in the direction. The man ended up firing about 6 or 7 rounds, killing the 2 men, the police and the other. That clearly shows, to me, a total lack of training. And they're covering up because up to now they can't say what type of firearm the man was armed with, right? That is the problem that you have. People running around with all kind of weapons, and they don't have the necessary skills, they don't have the training, they don't have the temperament to be carrying those firearms.
Exactly, and of course you can chime in at any time, Mr. Conway, because this matter, and of course we can see so because you've been into the pond here as well.
Okay, let me just add into what Paul mentioned about administrative. It's not all the time the administrative. A lot of firearms application don't go to the firearm board. Plenty don't go to the board. Certain people approving. They charge a man the other day for producing some bogus firearm approval letter. That a lot of things that means sending this here to the board. I dealing with this myself as long as the price is right. And then let's just, and in terms of revocation, there's a recent issue where they ask a certain guy who that sees his firearm and ask him to show cause why it should not be revoked. And he paid $3 million, 1.5 to two very senior police officers, and he's still in possession of his firearm. And I don't want to come and ask me for evidence because I ain't get given it. I don't have no confidence in home affairs. I have no confidence in the serious crime section. So let them come to me. I know where I will filter my information to and get justice. So it is the corruption in the thing, the corruption there.
It is, and it's been stirred. I mean, and seasoning is added to it every so often that it's become quite alarming.
Yeah.
And the minister, as I said, of agriculture, he comes into the area where I have my farm, and he'll meet with farmers, and that's when I said I have to raise with the two of you. He normally promised that because the issues we have with birds, there's a bird called an anaconda that will come, a peasant that eat the plants and agoutis and so on. He's promising that we will be given firearms. Now, in my mind, I said, now, how can a minister of agriculture promise me that I get a firearm? How does that even happen with the PPP? I mean,
because the system is corrupt, that's the problem. Because the system is corrupt. The system is corrupt. The Minister of Agriculture has nothing in law to do with firearm. Perhaps if you're a farmer, the Minister of Agriculture can confirm. If you should make an application
exactly
to want this firearm because you're a farmer, they might then require the Ministry of Agriculture to confirm that you're in fact the farmer that you claim to be. But apart from that, he should have nothing to do with it. But the system is corrupt, so perhaps he can call somebody and say, "Give this man a gun," and that is what happens. That is what happens. Look, we have a case too, recent case, carried in the newspaper, where somewhere on the East Coast, a licensed firearm holder was there imbibing with his cousin. Somehow his cousin had possession of his firearm, which he used to fire rounds in the air. We understand that that man who fired was charged. But we were saying, we discussed this thing, that is a matter for almost automatic revocation of the license from the man who owns it. How come you have a licensed firearm and your cousin has it in his possession and shooting off rounds? I understand that too is swept under the carpet. Of course, when this thing's go under the carpet, it's not just like that. It's not a broom you're using to sweep. You have to use some grangers. You have to use some grangers to make an improvised broom to sweep them under the carpet. The system is corrupt, and no one can defend. Well, they're going to try to defend it, but no one can properly defend that statement that the whole system in relation to firearm is corrupt, and because it is corrupt, you have all of these problems. People with all sort of firearm, somebody making the comment here, people at gas station with all sort of IPO rifle. This thing is, as I say again, this thing is a frightening situation when you walk around the place, knowing full well that many of these people don't have any proper training with these firearms. It is very, very worrying. I know I have said that one of the things you're likely to have is because many of these people with these firearms, not only are they not properly trained, but sometimes you can't even clearly detect that they are security personnel. You see some man with some high-powered gun, and I have said, and I pray that it doesn't happen, but I believe at some stage that is likely to happen. The police will receive a call of some robbery in progress or some robbery that was just carried out in a particular area, and they're going to be responding, and in their exuberance and perhaps even lack of training, they're going to see a man with a gun who might be a security guard, might assume that he is one of the bandits, and further I say that. But it's a worrying thing. It's a very frightening and worrying thing. And we're talking, in Guyana, when you look at the propaganda, they talk about tourism and all of that. Tourism, you displaying that you are such a violent place, because the mere fact that you have all of these guns around the place, openly displayed, this is not concealed carry. No. These are guns that are openly, and this is not only pistols and revolvers. We're talking about assault rifles. People are shotguns. People are walking around the place with. Yeah. Bad things are likely to happen.
Indeed. And while we're here, viewers, please remember that on Wednesday at 11, both retired assistant commissioners, Slowe and Conway, would be on the show Speaking Out. exposing incompetent corruption and incompetence. Very informative program. Please remember on Wednesday at 11 to tune in. If you missed that, then of course have a replay done or rebroadcast. It's important for you to pay attention to these things.
Well, let me say this too in respect to that. Thanks for the plug, but in respect to that, all the programs that we've had, we have been doing this over a year now. All the programs are in YouTube.
YouTube as well.
You can go on YouTube and see all the episodes that
Yes.
we have had. And you can also subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button, and you'll get notification whenever we go live. So even though, as the pastor said, we are scheduled routinely 11 o'clock on Wednesdays, sometimes we have a special, as we had last Friday, to address this court ruling. And once you subscribe and once you hit the notification button, you're going to know when we are on.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you for that. And so we will finally speak to or before we get to the last topic, the weapons. You were to introduce that, Mrs. Slowe. These high-powered rifles, I'll tell you why it became a concern for me. I was passing through Movie Town with my daughter. She had something to do with, actually, two of them, on last Sunday evening. And I said to them, girls, look, there are three men, actually, carrying high-powered, the AR-15 rifles. And I said, no, this is a mall. Little children were there. The train was moving around as having a movie town. I said, no, can you tell me what would be the cause for there to be security officers from the Sheriff Security Service, or whatever the name is, Sheriff, with high-powered rifles in the public domain, people walking past them all the time. And I said, no, look over there. You have a police officer, three of them. One is a corporal. I think the other one is a constable, and there's one in a khaki. I think he's an inspector or something. I said, you see nothing in their hands called a firearm. So you have sheriff security with AR-15 rifles and the Guyana police force with the two long handles we see here in Guyana. And I said, I have to reach out to you and have this conversation with you both, because this is a civilian speaking here. I am of the view that there's a parallel police force in this country. That is my view. Because the kinds of weapons that I see in these men's hands, they have to be, of course, legally in some way equipped to carry them. And the owners of these companies have to have some significant connections to have all of these assault rifles. I mean, I don't even know how many they have in these companies. But to see them at the mall and these places, which tourists? I lived in the US for a while. I lived in the Bahamas for a while. I have never seen this in these places. And the US has got mass shootings every so often. And I've never seen a guard in the mall with a high-powered rifle in his hand. Why must this happen in Guyana? So please.
It can happen in Guyana because Guyana is not a real place. It's a civilized plantation. So that is why it can happen. I have traveled and worked all over the place, all over the Caribbean and elsewhere. And I have never seen that as well. I've never seen that. And it happens in Guyana because it's lawlessness. Because the thing that strikes me is that the business people, so if a man at the Chinese restaurant or the Chinese shop, for example, they will dictate to the security companies, well, look, we want a guard, and we want a guard with a rifle, or we want a guard with a shotgun. That should not be. If you want security, a proper assessment should be done by the relevant authorities as to what type of security should be provided, even though it is private security. What type of security should be provided, not the business entity telling you this is what they want. And what happens when the business entity tells you they want a man with a shotgun or they want an armed guard? Then the security companies comply because it's more money they get in.
Correct.
They're looking at the bottom line. They get more for an armed guard. And look, so many instances, so many incidents in recent times. You had the one on the East Bank where the man Eccles not so long ago, just like that, shooting rounds in the air in a residential area. Just like that, bow, bow, bow. Texas, Baghdad, someplace like that you are. They're shooting Wild West. And that is the issue. And the issue comes right back to this elephant in the room, corruption. Because the whole process is corrupt. That is why those things can happen. A place like the mall, the police, that is where the man who sits in the seat of the commissioner, of the acting commissioner, they are the ones, special branch and DCU should do the security assessment and instruct that these type of weapons should not be allowed to be there.
Yeah.
There should be, because the police still is still the national police responsible for national security, not no mall owner or some man who owns a restaurant or a supermarket dictating what type of firearms should be there. That should not be.
See, somebody saying that Carl Long said I was at Hard Rock Cafe. That's at the mall, Movie Town last year.
That's not what we're talking about. Yeah, because what we're talking about are facts, things that you can see. We all see these things.
So tell me, please, if you can, how do these companies like Sheriff and I see Mohammed, they have their men standing in front of their business place with all these iPod rifles. How do they get that in Ghana? How are they able to acquire a private security company? How can they acquire? Is a license? What do they have to get all of these? Not one or two or three. They should be better equipped than the police force, if you ask me. How do they get?
I asked the same question at some time. I said, what yardsticks are used? I asked how many security companies there are, and this was in the wake of the security company in Waterloo Street, I think around Christmas last year, they reported that the last, I think, 11 firearms. Up to now, I don't think all of those firearms have been recovered. So the question was asked, what process you have? What can the ministry, and I think this should be asked in Parliament and elsewhere, how many registered security companies we have? And how many, at least somewhere, the police or somewhere should know how many persons, how many security personnel are in each of these companies. And further, because not every security personnel is has the authority to carry a firearm. In order for you to carry a firearm for your security company, you have to be precepted. You have to be a sworn supernumerary constable.
Okay.
Processed and sworn by the Guyana Police Force, authorizing you to carry a firearm. And we would have noted in the case of the young man I referenced earlier who shot himself on some 15-year-old boy was nearby in Border Market sometime last year. It was discovered that he was not authorized to carry a firearm, and that he was never sworn as a supernumerary constable. He does not have a precept on his kind of fire. And nothing has happened to the company. Nothing has happened to the company. And that is part of the problem you have. So you have all of these companies. To get a security company, you just the Private Security Act is there, but nobody follows it.
No.
Because it spells out, the law spells out what should be the modalities to establish a security company and how it should function. But nobody embodies with that. So, and then in terms of the acquisition of firearm, they just write perhaps and say that, look, we want 5 AR rifles, right? We want so many 9mm pistols. And then you are going to get it. The thing is about that private security companies now, at least in one case, can make a presentation of 9mm pistols to the Guyana Police Force.
Tell me about it.
Again, this is joke. In my days, you had the Carry On series of movies, right? Carry On this and carry. This is a Carry On situation we're in. This is just a mere, as I said, mere jokes. A private security company making donation of firearms to the Guyana Police Force, and the big all over the papers and so on. You have a situation where, as I've said, all kind of people now in private security. I remember some time ago when some of these gold miners, people were given permission to have certain type of firearms in the interior locations, right? Because it was felt that the threat was greater there, right? And therefore they needed special type of weapon for protection. That was the one now all over in the supermarket, the Chinese grocery store, every place, people with assault rifles and so on. I used to use, I don't know if it's still operating. If you go, I used to tell them about use the example of GRA in Camp Sheet. They go to GRA in Camp Sheet, you see a security, a big shotgun. Now, if something were to happen, he fighting with all them hundreds and hundreds of people who pack up at GRA, you could imagine what happened. I got to NIS to look after my little pension, and a man is there with a Beretta submachine gun. I spoke about it. I don't know if they address it. So if something happens, what do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah.
Old people like me, account to one man who writes, geriatrics like me got to go to NIS to get a pension, and that is what going to happen. We can't, some of them, I active. Some of the people, they can't run in case anything happens. So that is what.
Can't go down either. Knees bad. Some people can't get down on the floor.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, All right, let me get a piece of the button there, Paul.
Let, let me
What
take
call
let
it?
me take a single and go to the next end, man.
Come right in.
All right. The thing is that we have the Private Security Act, number 2009. And that's supposed to be the act that governs what goes on with this private security. The
Okay.
commissioner is empowered as a controlling authority, not the private security service, and the commissioner is a controlling authority. And for you to become a to operate as a private security, first you have to fall within the line of the Companies Act. You have to be GRA clearance, NIS clearance. You have to follow the labor laws and the immigration law. And this Private Security Act is a very powerful act, but they're not enforcing the act. It talks about suspension. Paul mentioned about a security firm lost 11 weapons. The act gives the commission the power to suspend that security for breaches in the first instance for 1 month. But then in suspending, you give them the right to be heard. Show cause why you should not be suspended or it should not continue or why you think should not be cancelled. And when you suspend, you seize all the firearms
Okay.
and all the members of the security or summary constables. You revoke their permission to operate as security officers. The act is clear, and the police supposed to get all the information because let me read section 13.1 of the act. It says every private security agency shall maintain a register containing, and here what they contain, names and addresses of person managing the private security agency, names and addresses of photographs of the private security guards and their supervisors employed by that agency, names and addresses of persons to whom or the establishment to which the agency has provided or is provided security service, arms and ammunition under its stock in custody, names and addresses of supernumerary constables attached to the private security
It's
agency.
right.
And here we say what uniform. Section 71. A private security agency shall issue to every private security guard and every supervisor employed or engaged by it a photo identity card with distinct identification number, special uniform, special badges, and caps indicating the logo or emblem of the private security agency concerned, or as approved by the controlling authority, which is the commission. They're not enforcing this act. The act is there to get rid of all this nonsense that is going on, but they're not enforcing it.
And
Indeed.
therefore, got to ask the question got to be the reason why. And the reason
Okay.
why some people would say that it is not being enforced is because this Barbadian-born singer who sang out of Jamaica, a man by the name of Jackie Opel, is in the house. Jackie Opel sang a famous song in my young days named You Got to Pay. You got to pay. And therefore, if Jackie Opel comes to the dance and you got to pay, then you can afford to ignore all of these provisions that CC read. Let me tell you this. I was commander of a division for a period of time. And there was an incident at Sapphire Exhibition Center where a security guard working there reported that he lost the shotgun that he was issued with. So we launched an investigation. We discovered in the first instance that this security guard wasn't a supernumerary constable and therefore should not have been carrying a firearm. We decided to do a proper audit of the company to discover then that there were 2 revolvers that they could not have accounted for, right? I instructed immediately that all the firearms belonging to that company should be seized and lodged with the police until they can satisfy the police as to the whereabouts of those 2 firearms and that they have the house in order. And I can tell you, I said it before, I did that. Ordered all the firearms seized, all the firearms were seized. And I get called from all over the place, including buildings in Robb Street and all those places. I tell them, play, no. But you know, no, that is not going to work. We have a process to go through. The process will be gone through. And no intervention by no politician or anyone is going to prevent the process from going through. And I tell you, I stood firm. I understand when I left I left the division in 2009, I think it was 2008. I left the division. I understand when I left the force in 2010, all those things, people get back their guns. I don't mind because it was nothing personal. It was
Correct.
just that I was making sure that the law was followed and that systems are in place to account for these firearms. Man, give security, pick up a man, and there are allegations to that. Right now, you have security companies who will get contracts. They don't have the personnel to supply, but they want to work. So they go around the place, and people allege that they got to pick up some junkie in the night, give you a uniform or put you at a particular spot. And in the morning, they take back the uniform just because give the junkie a raise. And that is what goes on. I understand. Those are the allegations that are made. And I have said that given all that is taking place with these security companies, a proper audit of the system, a systems audit should be done. All the security companies, every single one of them, because I have no doubt that some of them are operating above board. There are some reputable ones, no doubt, that were there long. I'm not going to call names, but we know those who have been there from time immemorial, long since I was a young police, and even before that. I don't think they are the problem. The problem is these recent mushrooming security company, mushrooming ones, where people associated with the company, everybody carrying around firearms. So firearms now are not only issued to them when they are on actual duty, they get the firearm 24/7 as if it's their personal property. And the law doesn't allow that. The law does not allow that. But it's a lawless situation you have. If you have lawless people running the show, you're then likely to have lawless situation all over, and that is what we have.
And we've descended into that indeed. And thank you. And of course, I will always say that I would hope that we can have further discussions on subsequent broadcasts, because this is a quite extensive and interesting and necessary for us to hear, because a firearm, we know it's a very, very dangerous weapon. It's deadly, and more so a high-powered one. Robeson Bennett said it, that he's concerned that people just walking around with high-powered rifles, and of course, that's the last time he ever said anything about it. He never talked about it again, because I said, no, if a police gets reported that somebody has a knife, you show up with AR with AK-47. I mean, what we do, and so Ben said he's concerned that shouldn't be happening. But now we have security firms, as they're called, with masterful weapons. And I have heard nothing from him regarding this concern. He's concerned about police officers walking around with AK-47s, but he seems to be unconcerned about sheriff and other security companies with high-powered rifles and all with the children are walking around the place. And these
let me say this first again. Let me emphasize. For me, a man who trained in the use of firearm and who trained people during the years to use firearm is not only the walking around with these high-power rifles, but when you take into consideration that many of these forces do not have the proper training, that is what makes it even more worrying.
Yes, I agree. It is. And because you see, I look at people and assess them, like the night of the mall. I said, now, when you look at these young men, very young men, their demeanor, those who are carrying from sheriff who carrying these high-powered rifles, their demeanor wasn't anything about, to me, that they're highly skilled, and if you approach them in some manner that's maybe suspicious, that they would not, as they say, cock that weapon and start firing shots at you. You could see from their demeanor that they were so, as somebody saying in the comments, they're so energized by having a weapon that they're ready to use it any second in a public place. And I would like to suggest that every 3 years or so, people should be called back. It should be actually a stipulation. 2 or 3 years ago, you return to be tested, to be re-examined, to be reassessed. Maybe have a target somewhere or something, and put in certain situations, circumstances where you have to prove that you should still maintain the firearm. Or if your business goes under, you no longer operate in the business, you don't need it anymore if that was the reason for having a firearm. But it seems as if it's, as you said, a lifelong right of people in this country. And it is now a political right, especially for Lyndon and Babees. You have a political right. As long as you're against or you're for the administration, you have a weapon to carry. It seems to be the norm here in our town, and we're concerned about that.
But let me say this too, in terms of retraining. I have a friend, I have several friends in the security business in New York and elsewhere. If you are a licensed security guard, I have a document somewhere in the system that was sent to me. You have to requalify at, at specific periods, I think every year or so.
Yeah.
You have to requalify. And the person who is doing the requalification, the instructor, has to issue an affidavit to say that you underwent this instruction and that in his opinion you are suited or you have qualified to continue to carry that firearm. And not
Yeah.
only that, but
Mhm.
this man who is doing this has to be certified too as a certified firearm instructor. All of those things have to happen. Not you just go in, you see a security guard um, carrying, escorting Brinks or any one of those places, this cash place, I think. They have to go through training and they have to qualify, I think, annually to continue to be able to carry a firearm. That in Guyana, once you get a firearm in Guyana, it's a lifetime right. You just can
So,
walk around with it all the time.
my goodness. Wow. So let's briefly talk about this final point with these trucks. I know, Mr. Slowe, you would have been responsible for traffic in Ghana. You were the man back in the day. So I'm sure that Mr. Conway as well can speak to this. These trucks we have got so many trucks in this country. We don't have enough roads for them to share with the cars because there's so many vehicles coming every year. But the huge trucks I'm talking about here. The other day we saw one that plowed through on the East Coast. He knocked lampposts, everything, and just went going. Then after that, there's about what 5 or 6 vehicles, a hauler, clear them away. And when I'm driving, I'm looking at these men. I'm saying, now, how could these 25-year-old boys have lorry licenses to haul tons of stone and sand? And these trucks are extremely fast. I don't think you realize in some cases what they're dealing with in their hand. What can you say to that? And how is it possible for us to even consider dealing with this? Because they're killing machines. When they hit you, it's over. And they race sometimes to get to the sandpit. And then to leave the sandpit, one of them told me he makes 4 trips into the highway and up the East Coast every day. 4 and 5 trips. Every day in a truck. When traffic was bad. Please help us with that.
Well, this is an issue we address as well. The old system with the driver's license thing in Guyana. Again, Jackie Opel at play. Corruption. I said the caption in one of the letters I wrote is that the elephant in the room is the 6th C. You know when you do the driver course or they tell you about 5
Five.
C's? No, there's a 6C. And the 6C is corruption. That is what is in the system. And nobody's addressing it. The Ministry of Home Affairs in February of this year, that's last month, come out in a statement to say at that time there were 16 deaths on the road as compared to 8 the previous period. Since then, you are over 20, and they are quiet since. They haven't even telling. They are not even saying what measures are being taken to address this carnage on the road. Nothing. They're not saying anything. They're not saying anything. And I am saying, I wrote on it. It's in the thing there that this thing has to be addressed holistically, comprehensively. Not just you go to parliament and you increase the fine for driving under the influence of alcohol, as they did some time ago, or they say that if you are involved in a fatal accident and you're found to be under the influence of alcohol, then the charges upgraded to manslaughter. So those things are good, but you have to have other measures as well. You have to start from the beginning. How do someone acquire a driver's license? Private vehicles, public transportation, trucks, and all of those things. And unless you address that, you're not going any place. You're not going any place. Corruption. And once the system is corrupt, you're going to continue to have that. And when you say this thing, they say you're speaking out against the government. I see the Attorney General Friday night says Slowe is a critic of the government. I'm not a critic of the government. I am pointing out these issues with the expectation, well, not necessarily expectation, with the hope that they are going to be addressed. And I would say that in any properly run society, these things would be addressed, not with all of these nonsensical statements that they make. That's in the wake of all of these fatal accidents. I think Guyana has, for this year, and the third month is not over yet. Over 40 people have died on the
Already.
road in Ghana. Don't worry the figures that they're giving, because they're cocking the figures. The media houses now have taken to tracking these things and compiling them themselves, because there's no trust in the police. All of a sudden, the police making a distinction between fatal accidents and they call it fatal incidents. So you have a case on the quarantine where a man driving a car about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he apparently there was some animal on the road. He swerved to avoid the animal,
Kill some.
kill people, and they say no, there's not a fatal accident. There's an incident. So they're not they cocking the figure, in other words. But you have to be forthright. You have to be candid and address the situation frontally. And you look in the wake of all of this, the man who sits in the chair as the commissioner called him, he think 2 Fridays ago. And what did he do? He transferred all the traffic heads. That's his solution. So you just move them around, all the traffic heads. Then he tell them they must line air nonsense. As I had an inspector, Nyland Welch used to say, air nonsenseness. Air nonsenseness. They must line all the roads to prevent speeding. They must line the roads. Police must line the roads to prevent speeding. Police, and he's ordering, police must use their resources, motorcycle and car, in the performance of the duty. You ever hear tripping this up? You ever hear nonsense like that? That is the response of the man who sits in the chair to all the fatal accidents that we have been having. Police must not direct traffic and use phones and all them type of crap. They must not stop vehicles. Constables, junior rank must not stop vehicle unless they are accompanied by an inspector or an officer. How that is going to address this carnage on the road that we're talking about? How are you going to address? That was the response. It's there in the thing. You know, I'm very careful when I speak, because since all of this story with me and the suspension of the commission and so on, they've been listening carefully to everything I say. As a matter of fact, I have had 2 lawsuits based on what I have been saying. Well, one was dismissed, the other one just somewhere in the system. So I'm always making sure that I do my research, and when I speak these things, I speak things that I can back up and can support. But that is the response of the man who sits in the chair. So what do you expect? He transfers the people in charge of traffic. And since he did that, you had, I think, about 10 fatal accidents after them.
It's so sad. I mean, some of the things that are laughable, because not as funny, but it's just strange to know the way that people think when they have certain positions in Guyana. Because I drive, of course, very often, and I look sometimes at the timber trucks. And I showed my daughter the other morning and said, you see this? Here in Linden, because most of them must pass through Linden, at about 4 or 5 o'clock, between that hour of the day, you have about 10, sometimes 12 of these trucks laden with lumber, about to head down the highway. I show them that these trucks, some of them just have a chain strapping the timber on with no the pawling you're supposed to have to protect the
rails, yeah.
The rails. None of that. The law, I think, says that the lumber has to extend 5 feet off. They have 15 feet, 20 feet sometime behind, long lumber, heading down the highway. One of the chains popped the other day. Well, it happened before, then it happened 2 months later on. The lumber fell off the truck, destroyed the highway. They haven't fixed the hole, and it's over almost 3 weeks now. A big hole. If it rains for 2 days, the highway is going to cave in again. I'm so concerned because they're going to kill somebody. Honestly speaking, it is going to kill people. The other night, one of them slipped off and hit a minibus. I don't know how the driver lived. Because these men are carrying heavy lumber on a highway that is undulating, and it's this Suzette Linden highway is a death trap. We don't have lights. Then the truck drive at any time of day, and they don't retain or restrain the lumber properly. But these drivers pass police officers. That's the part I'm getting to. They pass police officers. And if Clifton Hickens said, okay, you have to patrol or whatever you have to do, you mean nobody could see these trucks that are so unfit for these road driving here?
Well, they don't care, you know. You see, many times I don't necessarily blame those junior ranks. You got to talk about the leadership. What type of leadership they are being given?
Indeed,
if the people in the leadership positions are not addressing these issues and giving proper legal instructions as to how these things should be dealt with, if they're not good enough to recognize some of these issues, and if there is need for them to interact with the Attorney General or the Ministry of Public Works with changes to be made. You're not going to have any thing that is the issue you have. That
And
is the
sorry, permit me please if I can right here, because you said critical about leadership. I live in Linden, of course, and there's a checkpoint at what they call Bamia Hill, at the top of Bamia. And you said something that really, I spoke about it the other day and talked about it here. You have 2 or 3 officers there. There's a station, a little checkpoint where they be. I said, hold on. I passed the other day. Now, there is no motorcycle, no car. It's 24 hours man now, man for 24 hours. I said, if somebody should race through Linden and they get a call to me, hey, somebody's coming here with some illegal substance or something, or dangerous person, intercept them. The person fly past the checkpoint. There is no car. There is no motorcycle. These officers stand there with absolutely no means to move. And you spoke about leadership. And I said, how could this even be sensible? That on the highway, you have no vehicle. So when the truck had a problem, police will have to walk down the hill, walk up the other side of the hill to see what's happening in the truck. You have miles of backup on the highway. They have no vehicle whatsoever on that road. And I'm happy to raise it because I'm speaking here to leadership and foresight. On the highway, no patrol. So how can you throw people down if you have no motorcycle to go on the highway to deal with them?
That's the problem. See, somebody, one of your fans here say that they want to hear from you. So
all right, well, all right. Since I was confined as the tail end, I'm going to move up the button. The thing is, we discussed this thing before, and the thing is that you need to have a holistic approach towards this traffic situation. Piecemeal effort will only produce piecemeal results, and sometimes you need to there's a traffic workers on the road. Maybe that's why you need to have more rigid and enforcement. And Paul, you mentioned about corruption, and I keep referring to Rohan Singh, who was in charge of the audit and inspection unit. He did an analysis of down the driver package, and he concluded that the 1,157 potential killers have been let loose on our roads as drivers. And I think they have graduated from potential to real killers. Nobody saw it fit to investigate how they get a driver license and who gave them the driver license. So those persons maybe are now active graduates, and that's why we get so many accidents about the place. And even with the trucks, with this economic boom that's going on, with this construction going on, perhaps you need to limit them. Certain time you could use the road, and certain time you can use the road as the case may be. And you mentioned something drop out from a truck and into a minibus. There's a charge, I think, called that is seldom used, called faulty packing. That if you're packing this thing, you got to make sure that they thing properly. And it's not only the traffic ranks. All members of the force got to be involved. Ask the general duty man when last he made a traffic case. Ask him. Traffic is not only for the men with the white sleeve. Traffic is everybody, and the leadership, the commander has got to get actively involved in this thing. He has got to be visible, and he has got to give directions, and only directions. He has got to find way to influence the behavior of his policemen so that they can do better. But if you do piecemeal, you get piecemeal results.
Interesting. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, you've certainly set a record in reference to the match we've played. We've gone for 2 hours. That's certainly a record. But it was 2 hours well spent. I am certainly better informed, and I'm happy that I had the chance to have you engage those who view via this platform. Thank you. And for your closing remarks, please, whatever you have to say, help us, because we are in trouble in this country. Guyana is in serious trouble. I remember, I don't know if you were, but on I think it was Friday, I was at the Mackenzie Sports Club, and a police rank was sent. Of course, he behaved in a very, very professional manner. But I was there in a meeting, and I was thereafter recorded to show the community what is being done at the ground because I'm a paid member. And a police officer was sent. A Trinidadian company has the contract to upgrade the ground, and they said I can't be there. So the officer came, and he said the man said the contractor said I can't be in the ground. So I said, no, tell me which act of law am I violating? Because your only right as an officer to fulfill that which is lawful. Now tell me, because I'm prohibited from visiting a facility that I pay for in reference to by membership. And he didn't ask me to leave or command that I leave, because I told him that Charles Ramson can't tell you that. Nobody could tell you I have to leave anywhere. As a Guyanese, I have the right to law. But we were in trouble because when Trinidadians could be in Ghana telling me that I can't stand somewhere, and then they could call and some police has to be sent to me because some higher up call, I know we're in trouble. So in your closing remarks, I would be grateful if you can not encourage us, but enlighten us as to what we can all do as Guyanese to make this country better.
Well,
okay, let me go before you, Paul.
Go ahead.
Let me go before you, Paul. Let me go up the button order. Pastor, I said in my open statement that you're doing the work of the Lord, and I know that you will continue. And I used to tell my ranks, that you can't do policing without God. And if you want to know to do policing to be effective, read the Bible, read the Quran, read the Gita, read those holy books. There are numerous stories in those books telling you how to do policing. And a closing, we can be effective policing without God.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me say this. The way to address what is going on, all the lawlessness, is that more people have to speak out. You watch behind me, you see it speaking out, exposing corruption and incompetence. There's so much going on. But people are just afraid to speak. At some stage, you have to get a little spine and stand up for your rights. If we were spineless, we would not have gotten this ruling on Friday. Where now, and this ruling is not only for the Police Service Commission, but it has set a precedent to how the president should operate. You can't just arbitrarily and unilaterally suspend a commission. And I'm saying more people have to stand up and stand out and speak out. And that is the only way things are going to be done. Speak out, write out, right? You don't have to write, and here I'm not encouraging necessarily just write against. There are going to be things that you see that are being done the correct way, and therefore let people know. Let people know. And as you pointed out some state time when you started, one of the reasons we have this program speaking out, because a lot of people don't know what is the correct thing. Even the policemen, they don't know. They go into a system, and as we say in the military, they fall in and cover down.
True.
Not knowing that what they are doing is the wrong thing. And therefore, we are using our platform to try to educate policemen, to try to educate members of the public. So again, I like to close by plugging. We are on Wednesday at 11 o'clock. There are lots of issues coming out of this ruling from the Justice Gino Prasad on Friday that we are still to address, and we're going to do so on Wednesday. I encourage you all to make sure that you're in class on Wednesday for more teaching and more learning. And I want to close by thanking you, Mr. London, for giving me this opportunity to again be on this program to address these burning issues.
I'm so grateful. And to both of you, I say thanks. Please continue to do that. You are, I consider in this case, assigned to in this nation. You are both voices that are necessary, absolutely critical to the maintenance of law and order and to the informing of society. We need you. So, gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing the time with me. And I think in this case, we don't have to grieve for the loss as happened to the West Indies today. We have won because you've both handled the ball, bat and ball, and you did well. I'm grateful. Thanks and do well. Continue to serve.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
boss.
God bless
Thank you.
you.
A good night to all.
Night to all of you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks to those who would have joined us. I am certainly grateful. I hope that you would have been as informed as I am, and as encouraged as I am by these two noble gentlemen who would have stood and continue to stand in the midst of a very, very corrupt society. We shall continue, as we are encouraged, to speak out and also to remember. And that is what brings me to the fore. I'm happy that Mr. Conway would have said that. Those of you who read the Bible, as you say you're Christian, it is filled with acts of bravery and courage. You must not be cowards. You have to be strong enough to speak that which is right. Even if it costs you your life, speak that which is right. Die saying the right thing. Die doing the right thing. And die for the right thing. With that in mind, I say thank you and do well.